How can we accommodate for things like weather, unexpected things, getting kicked out of a location, having to move a location? There's a million things to be anxious about. Here's what changes over time.
I've always been very conservative in preparing for the unknown. Where's the market going on? What is the business going on? Where's the industry going? I'm always trying to forecast. And I thought that was a really good habit in my life. But now that I do know these things, I'm like, there's certainly an aspect of living daily in both mindsets. That when I'm working, when I'm not, I'm absolutely not.
You're not supposed to be riddled with anxiety. You're not supposed to wake up in the morning and go, what if a bomb goes off? But at the same time, you do want to have some level of anxiety. It's reasonable to be anxious to the extent that it allows you to make wise business choices.
The work ethic is like, if you think you work hard days, you don't. Are you obsessed with what you do? Because there's absolutely a need for that kind of commitment, that anxiety that says like, I've got to be ready for whatever's next.
Welcome to the Millionaire Hairstylist, where our mission is to improve the financial well-being of creative professionals. If you run a business, or even if you just work for yourself, you know that being in charge, owning the company, comes with a certain level of anxiety. Have you ever experienced anxiety running your business? I think we all have, and that's exactly what I discuss in this conversation with our founder, celebrity hairstylist, Cash Lawless. How much anxiety is too much anxiety? When is anxiety good for your business? And when is anxiety bad for you and your business? That's what we'll get into. If this podcast has been helpful to you as you run your business or you run your career as a creative professional, would you please help us let others know about it? Give us a review in the podcast platform of your choice. Okay, here is what anxiety is doing to your business and what you can do about it on the Millionaire Hairstylist.
Did I ever tell you I got a full body scan? I went to one of these places and like where they scan every organ in your body and check for everything.
Okay?
We'll find out. But I went to this body scan place because my dad has a history of heart problems, and both of my grandfathers died from heart attacks.
Oh,
and so I want to make sure, I'm 37 at this point, I want to make sure that I don't have any problems building up.
No kidding.
So I went and did one of these full body scans that I'd never heard of. My wife told me about it. She's like, you need to do this. And I was like, thank you. You're amazing. I'm going to do it. And we both went and got one. And it was such a interesting experience. I think one negative thing happened and one positive thing happened. So I was really concerned that there might've been plaque buildup in my body. And so
can you just pause for a second? Is this like an MRI?
It's not an MRI. No, it's a full body scan. It's different types of technology used to basically image layers of the body from your feet up. So it basically goes through every organ. So liver, kidneys, heart, lungs, everything. And the only thing they're not, so there's a lot of other parts that we got tested and like, there's a lot of other portions to it, like hormone panel and blood panel and all that kind of stuff. But the body scan was a really interesting experience in that I went in and I found out I have no heart problems or no plaque buildup or no signs of anything going on with my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have been resisting bacon. I've been I have been not eating all of these things I was told for so long not to eat. So I've actually been eating a lot more of those things. So there was a very negative effect from the body scan.
Okay.
And then when I found out my liver was in great condition.
More bacon doesn't sound like your liver.
Yeah.
You buried the lead.
So,
it's the guy who built a wine closet in his house.
Yeah.
He's like, honey, we need a place to put the wine.
Yeah. Yes, it's a beautiful wine cellar. It took me 8 months. I built it myself. I insanely enjoy woodwork, but I drink a fair amount. I drink my fair share of the world's alcohol. And I enjoy wine and all kinds and types, cheap or expensive. And I think when I found out my liver was in perfect condition, I was shocked as well.
It's I thought you said my liver is not, and I was like, but you're saying your liver is in good condition.
No, the liver was in great condition. And so,
okay.
But what happened with this new information is my behavior changed from not knowing and being preventative from the unknown. And then from knowing that I'm okay to, I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'll have another drink or my liver's fine. Like,
so now you think what's going to happen is you're just going to careen off of a health cliff.
Yeah.
Because you basically found out that you're that
I'm
you've
invincible.
got more borrowed time than exactly. I'm invincible. I'm fine. It's like that person who's like, I never get cavities, and then they just start picking out on ice cream, and then like a year later they have like 5 cavities, and it's like, oh, I should have found out that I never get cavities.
That was me. That's me. Well, that's where I am right now. And the lesson that I took away from that was that I've always been very conservative in preparing for the unknown. And I've done that well in finances and with a business. And I've sort of I'm always looking ahead to where's the market going and what is the business going and where's the industry going.
Yes.
I'm always trying to forecast, and because I don't know. And I thought that was a really good habit in my life. And now that I do know these things, I'm like, oh, now that I know them, that they're okay, I'm like, bring it on.
Right.
Eat, drink, and be merry. And so I'm going to have to work on this mindset personally, that knowing this information, I can't let it get away from me. So I'll keep you guys posted if I turn alcoholic.
It's interesting that you say that, though, about the whole idea of trying to formulate my thoughts around this idea of like, there's an aspect of owning a business. There's an aspect, certainly what I do as a film producer, where my job is to be professionally anxious about the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give you an example. If you find me in a given day on a film set as the producer, whether it's a commercial set or a feature set or whatever, I am thinking about what's happening right now, and I'm thinking about, is the weather going to change? Are we about to lose this location in 2 hours? Do we have the cast locked in who's going to be on set with us tomorrow? Have they been properly fitted? Do we have the insurance policy that's going to accommodate for, what we're shooting today, on this location next week? I'm like professionally anxious about the future. What I have discovered as I've been in the past few years in a more committed relationship is that being professionally anxious about the future is not great for intimate relationships, because what I find I will find myself doing is I become professionally anxious about my personal future, maybe the future of myself and my significant other. Mm-hmm. And then I do this thing where I try to recruit my significant other, my girlfriend, to be professionally anxious with me about this thing that I'm anxious about. And that goes over about as well as you'd expect. And what I wonder, because we like to bring things full circle around to running a business, is, Cash, as someone who is good about being anxious about the future, and anxious is a strong word, but I don't really think there's much of a difference between.
Pretty accurate.
It's the right word. You're not supposed to be riddled with anxiety. You're not supposed to wake up in the morning and go, what if a bomb goes off? But at the same time, you do want to have some level of anxiety. It's reasonable to be anxious to the extent that it allows you to make wise business choices. So Cash, as someone who has been good at this, right? Because you can make an argument that one of the things that you've been good at in business is that you're anxious enough about the future that you make good decisions in the present that have a positive impact on the future. So what's the mediation between too much or too little anxiety about a future potential outcome in a business? And how do you mediate that in yourself? So that, because again, let's just be clear on my point. The reason that too much anxiety is a bad thing is it can be counterproductive. If I'm sitting at the dinner table with my girlfriend and I'm trying to envelop us in anxiety about things that I can't possibly control or know about the future, it's counterproductive because you're losing the value of the moment that you're having right now for no damn reason other than to assuage your own sort of angst. Whereas it's reasonable to say, well, we should get up early in the morning because we have to go to the airport. So how do you mediate that as a business owner, as a visionary, as someone who's trying to lead more than one business to success? Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast and you want to further your financial education, you can do so for free. Go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com, where you have an entire library of free financial lessons aimed at the well-being of creative professionals, including a lesson on why budgeting is a terrible, soul-sucking way to manage your money and why allocation is a much wiser system for managing your resources. Go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com and sign up today.
I think you're looking at a duality. You're looking at duality. You're going to have to hold both positions true at the same time. There's two perspectives you can have, and you're going to need both of them. One is very popularized by the Bible, and that's, fear not, for I have overcome the world. So it's like, Jesus telling people, don't be afraid of things. Don't worry about things. Then there's...
Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Exactly. There's another Bible verse that talks about, if I've taken care of the birds as I have, how much more will I take care of you? So don't spend time worrying about tomorrow. And so there's that philosophy out there that's very pervasive. And while that can be very What?
Just using the word pervasive, like we're just riddled with that idea here in our lazy culture.
No, it's pervasive, and I think it's true. And when I say duality, I mean you need to be able to hold two things true at the same time.
Yes.
And I think there's Andy Grove, who wrote the book Only the Paranoid Survive. And a quote from that book, he says, complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive. So he says, no matter how successful you become, you need to stay vigilant. Great leaders make great products and teams. And then they question how they can make them even better. So I think when you've got one person who's saying only the paranoid survive, you need to be vigilant. You need to be looking at what's coming next. While you also need to not let that worry destroy your life and impact your decisions in a negative way and the people around you in a negative way and your relationships. And so each one of these things can be taken to extremes, and you'll need to navigate holding both of these perspectives true, because you obviously don't want to be at your child's 6th birthday party constantly on your Apple Watch freaking out about your business and having that be the sentiment and the temperament of the entire household. But you also need to be watching your business. So
yes, 100%.
You need to be vigilant of what's going on in your business and concerned for what the future brings and prepare for that, while also communicating to your employees you're headed in a great direction and think, like that there's bright things ahead. You have to do both. I think you have to do both, and you have to find the right moments to employ that anxiety to benefit you and to benefit your business and to benefit your employees and your team, and say, I am the captain that is holding strong to the helm, and I'm looking over the bow. I am watching the compass, and I am getting us through this. But also, but also when it's dinner time, I'll put the right person at command, and we'll step away, and I'll have a life. When it's time to sleep, I'll sleep. So there's certainly an aspect of living daily in both mindsets. And the way that I do this, the way that I accomplish this, is that when I'm working. When I'm not, I am absolutely not anymore. I do not take my laptops on trips anymore. My laptop on trips. I don't really log into anything other than chat platforms within our businesses to just see if there's anything I've been tagged in that is immediate. And remember, I only have one person who's reporting to me directly. So if it's an emergency, he'll call me.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just very unlikely that if I'm gone for 3 days or even 3 weeks, that something catastrophic is going to happen other than a black swan event, which should be rare. So what I do is I time block my anxiety. And I think maybe that came natural to me because you can ask my wife, I was anxious 24/7 about my businesses. And maybe there's a certain level of comfort, which is bad, that comes with success in business, a certain level of success. I certainly don't consider myself successful.
It's not comfort. It's not bad. I'm going to tell you what you've experienced here in a second, but keep going. So you used to be super anxious.
I used to be super anxious all the time, but with a little bit of order and help and great people around me, great mentors, great employees, great teams, thriving businesses, numbers look good. It's hard to be anxious during those times. And so what I try to do is muster up some anxiousness about what could be ahead of the curve.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is, and you'll see that in our capital allocation. And our capital allocation in our business is becoming more conservative. We're taking less risks on marketing. We're taking less risks on employees. We're not offering aggressive compensation packages. And we are looking at our financials much more frequently with much more discretion and eliminating the things that absolutely are not producing results in preparation for what could be a reduction in revenue. So I think that there's, at a certain point now, it's like, okay, need to be anxious, need to look at things, but those are more habits than they are feelings of anxiety anymore.
Okay, so here's an interesting point on all of this, because you're mapping out a continuum of growth that in earlier days represented total anxiety.
Yeah.
And that today represents a sort of practiced anxiety, a sort of habitual anxiety that is, let's call it balanced and reasonable. So I've experienced this many times. And what I experience in that given day, when you have all those problems to solve in the service of that creative vision, there are lots of things that you need to be thinking about. Are people getting, so this is like how my mind would work on a given day. It's like, okay, where are we shooting? Do people have the equipment they need? Do they have the food that they need? How are they going to get paid? Do they have a schedule? Is the schedule reasonable? Can we get everything done in the amount of time that we need to get done? Do we have the appropriate amount of crew to get things done in the amount of time they get done? Is the location going to allow us to do the things that we want to do? Is the client understanding that what we can do is within the parameters of what we're budgeted to do? How can we accommodate for things like weather, unexpected things, getting kicked out of a location, having to move a location? So there's a million things to be anxious about. Here's what changes over time is that competence and experience allows you to have a reasonable amount of anxiety, but to have less anxiety because you have solved these problems many times before. So when I first started as a PA, and then I worked my way up through production, you start by someone saying, you need to go buy rubber bands because we're out of rubber bands. And you solve this little mini problem and you think like, well, I got to hold on to the receipt because if I don't hold on to the receipt, then they can't get reimbursed. And so I got to hold. So you have this little problem, little mini point of anxiety. And as you grow in the production world, you're given more responsibility. And with that responsibility comes anxiety. So now I'm the production coordinator. My job is to make sure everyone has food tomorrow. And you have to be anxious about, did I get enough vegan options? Because our cinematographer is vegan. So you have a little bit of anxiety. Well, by the time you're the producer, you're not anxious about the vegan options because you know how the vegan options are served. You just make sure there's enough vegan options on the menu. You're not anxious about losing a location because you know you have a location manager and you've talked about some of the contingencies. And so as you build experience and as you build competence and confidence, a good marker of this that I like to joke with my girlfriend about is the night before a shoot, I can watch a movie with her. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, never could do that because I'm too anxious about what's going to happen.
I was the same. I was like working on the wigs and I was like practicing the looks and like for days before.
Exactly.
And I couldn't sleep the night before a big shoot. And I remember that. And then by the end of my career,
right.
It's not that I showed up less prepared, but I had more tools in my tool belt.
Correct.
Correct. Not much would happen on that set that I wasn't prepared for.
Correct. Yeah. And if something does happen, you go like, oh, I've seen this movie before. Yeah. I know how to fix this problem. Now, so then what almost happens in a situation like that is you can start handing off these things to other people and saying, okay, now here's how I want you to solve this problem. That's where the delegation comes in on a film set, is that the producer offloads a lot. Okay, it's your job to be anxious about the food. And I'm only anxious if I think you're not doing your job well, but if you're competent, you can handle it. But you get to this place where I can have in my mind the night before a shoot, a $60,000, $100,000, $200,000 a day in my head, understand every piece of it and sleep very soundly without problem. And that just comes from experience and time. And so on the flip side, I had a friend who was recently becoming a manager at their company. And he said to me, I'm so anxious now because I'm the manager and I'm getting called all the time with these phone calls. And it's interrupting me when I'm not at work. I'm getting interrupted with these phone calls. And I said, well, here's the good news. You will get to a point where you can look down at your phone, see a text about a problem that 6 months ago would have made you really anxious and go, okay, that's fine. Just do this, this, and this, and go back to watching your TV show. Like as you build the experience and as you build the competence and as you build the systems in place and your habits and you form all that over time, you get to a place where these things that previously made you anxious just don't anymore. And the beauty of that as a business owner, coming full circle to our audience here at the Millionaire Hairstylist, helping creative professionals be financially successful, is it's always going to be very stressful when you start. And you want to embrace that anxiety because it is a fuel that's going to help you avoid problems. But as you said, Cash, you will get to a point where if you're doing it correctly and you're allowing that anxiety to help you make the right decisions, you get to a place where, Cash, you're almost in the business of finding new things to be anxious about, finding bigger problems to be anxious about. You're in the business of like, okay, how can I be anxious about something that is 7 figures, 8 figures, right? How can I be anxious about that?
9.
Because that's how I grow. 9.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how I can grow my business. And so that you almost can't fake that. You can't manufacture that. You kind of just have to grow through that. You kind of just have to learn and observe and try and build your competence and confidence. And if you do that, you can get to the other side of the tunnel and you can basically be in a position where you say, this used to make me anxious. I know how to solve it now. I've appropriately delegated it. And now I'm looking for bigger fish to fry.
I think that Oprah said something really interesting that leans into this heavily. And she said, I believe luck is preparation meeting opportunity. If you hadn't been prepared for when the opportunity came along, you wouldn't have been lucky. And she said that to Josh Groban, who was 17 years old. And Josh Groban was a young teenage singer who had an opportunity to fill in for, it was either Luciano Pavarotti or, no, it wasn't Pavarotti. It was, oh gosh, his name is blanking me. Andrea Bocelli.
I was going to say Placido Domingo. But okay.
Yeah, Placido Domingo is amazing too. If you haven't heard his song, Perhaps Love with John Denver, fantastic.
You should listen to the Millionaire Hairstylist podcast. Those hosts can name 3 male opera singers?
Yeah.
Like, who are we? Are you sure it's not Placido Domingo? Because I'm pretty sure it's Placido Domingo. No, it's Andrea Bocelli. Like, what?
Andrea Bocelli. He was filling in for Andrea Bocelli with a duet with Celine Dion. And the producer, a musical producer, was sent a tape of this kid and had heard it and thought, you know what? we'll call that guy back. And I can't remember the producer's name, very famous guy. And they called him back, and Josh Groban said, I'm totally not, I can't do this. I can't sing in that key. There's no way. I'm a baritone. I'm not singing in a tenor's key. And this producer said, I've heard you sing. You're going to do it. He had half a rehearsal, or maybe a rehearsal, and you can find the rehearsal on YouTube. But this is a 17-year-old singing next to Celine Dion, who'd never sang with a celebrity in his life, in front of a massive global audience on TV. And then he blew up, right? So he was huge after that. And when he was on the Oprah show, he said, you know what? It was lucky. I got lucky. And that's when Oprah said, I believe luck is when preparation meets opportunity. How much work did you do to, have you been doing? Well, he's singing for a very, very long time. Lots of rehearsal, lots of practice. And I think through those reps, you start to build up the proverbial muscle that prepares you to lift these bigger opportunities and take these things on. But I do think there's a season of preparation that requires hard work. I don't know if I've met anyone else or seen anyone else or have any friends that have achieved any significant level of success where there wasn't massive dedication, right? I have a client who's arguably the world's most famous pop singer. Constantly working. The work ethic is like, if you think you work hard days, you don't. You don't know what obsession looks like. And that's what I felt like looking in the mirror of that was like, dude, do you even like what you do? Are you obsessed with what you do? Because there's absolutely a need for that kind of commitment, that anxiety that says like, I've got to be ready for whatever's next. I've got to be ready. And I'm not sure if that's a personality thing or if it's something that's developed. What are your thoughts?
I think if you were to take 100 listeners of this show who are creative professionals, I think you would find there's a through line, which is that because inherent in the creative profession, especially as an entrepreneur, is a sort of a do-it-yourself mentality. And I don't think you really are even attracted to doing it yourself, to starting your own thing, to building your own business, to building your own brand.
Right.
You're not really attracted to that without that corresponding sense of anxiety. I think that kind of comes with it, because the flip side of that coin is, it's not to say that people cannot be anxious in a job where they're an employee. Obviously, that is the case. But I think the flip side of that coin is that when you subscribe to a career or a lifestyle where you work inside of a larger organization, it narrows what you have to be anxious about considerably, because it's like you have a job. You don't have to worry about HR. You don't have to worry. When you strike out on your own as an entrepreneur, you have the freedom of being your own boss. You lose the safety net of the paycheck, of the HR department, of the finance department, of all the things that you get. I mean, I abandoned a multi-year career in marketing where I was an employee making good money to come work in film. So I know that feeling very specifically. And sometimes you miss that just a little bit. Every once in a while you have a moment where you go, well, it was kind of nice when I had that salary. But I think that inherent in that need to strike out and want to do your own thing, which again, I think is a through line probably with the people listening to this now, comes with it that sense of sort of, there's a pressure that comes with that I think you have to embrace. So to put a button on a conversation I did not plan on, Cash, I was going to talk about something completely different with you. And then you brought up your body scan and your bad liver. I mean, your good liver. And
quality liver.
And all that to say, embrace the anxiety about the future, balance it with the feeling in the moment of the present, understand that over time that will reduce if you're doing things correctly. If you're still anxious about things, if I was still losing sleep every night, worrying about catering the next morning, that would be a sign that something's wrong. I think if you can look at your anxiety and see that it has gone down over time about certain things in your business, that's almost like a marker that says like, okay, things are getting better. I'm improving. Either I'm getting better or the system that I built is getting better, has gotten better. I think that's probably a good marker to look at. But all that to say, I think that can go away with time. And then you get to a place, which I think this is probably where you're really starting to enter now, where you do get to strike out and you get to go look for things that are very high value to be anxious about. And that to me is really, that's the cruising altitude of really successful entrepreneurialism is that you're no longer putting out fires. You're going out and burning the world to the ground in the best, most altruistic, fantastic, moral way. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going out and looking for fires to meet water, right? Like, as I move through my career, I've had a fair amount of experience. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 15. I started a video production company when I was in high school. I was filming weddings and events and funerals, and people's parents just got wind of it. I had my business cards and then I had 2 employees at 15. And then I had to go it all up when I was 18. But I think that bone has been in me for a long time, and I had to rediscover it through some pretty painful experiences as a young adult. But now I'm where my mind is at is I'm more clear than I ever have been, and I have lots more to learn and lots more clarity to gain, but I'm more clear than I ever have been on my lane and my unique ability and the things I should be doing, my strengths, my weaknesses. And when we're honest with those things, I have less anxiety about my weaknesses than I've ever had in the past. I used to be so anxious about my social skills. So anxious. I would sweat in high school. High school was hard for me for the first couple of years. Granted, I only had 2 years of high school. I went junior and senior year.
He learned real good.
I learned real good. I actually still got valedictorian. So that's, in 2 years, that's my badge from high school.
Wow. I don't think I ever knew that about you.
No, you didn't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually don't share that too often, but.
This is public, right?
Yeah. It could be edited, right?
I'll talk to someone.
Yeah, we'll edit the valedictorian out. So the position that I get now as I'm learning more about myself is I love finding founders and entrepreneurs and building with them and coming alongside them, whether it be from a financial standpoint, an investment in the business, an equity partner, those types of things. And so venture capital, investments in businesses, real estate is just a really interesting lane, raising capital for those businesses, casting the vision, entering new markets, doing new things. That's really exciting for me. And I love to work with brilliant operators. So I'm enjoying looking for new anxieties.
I think this is the entrepreneurial equivalent of the It Gets Better campaign. Hang in there, guys. It gets better.
It gets better.
If you're a hairstylist, if you're a creative professional, and you are interested in your financial well-being, remember to like and subscribe so that more episodes just like this one show up in your YouTube feed.